Welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are going to dive into the darkest corners of a franchise fighting for its absolute survival. Listen, this explainer is not for the faint of heart. We are dissecting the complete anatomy of a disaster, a total collapse that was born right there in the war room, accelerated by sheer, raw desperation, and is now bleeding out onto the field every single Sunday. But before we uncover the brutal, unfiltered truth about the Washington Commanders, I need you to do exactly 3 things for us. Subscribe to NFL Nexus right now, hit that like button to support the relentless, deep-dive film analysis we bring you every single week, and finally, drop your raw thoughts in the comments as we go through this and click that join button to become a channel member. Honestly, your support is the only thing that keeps this documentary-style analysis alive. So, let's step into the void. Everything changed in a matter of seconds. In the National Football League, destinies aren't really decided over the course of long, grinding seasons. They're decided in fractions of a moment. It's a single phone call in a panicked, sweating draft room. It's a single draft card hastily handed to the commissioner. It's a single decision made under the suffocating, relentless pressure of the draft clock winding down to zero. What we're about to look at today brilliantly illustrates how one isolated, catastrophic moment on draft day can violently fracture a franchise, completely dooming their immediate future and sending these massive ripples of destruction through an entire depth chart for years to come. Chapter 1, A Franchise on the Brink, the Current Reality. To truly grasp the reality of this situation, we have to look at the sheer, crushing weight of this number, 28th. Let's just establish the grim landscape of the Washington Commanders right now as they enter the 2026 season. They're still reeling, they're still deeply bruised from a 2025 campaign that was completely derailed by the brutal, unforgiving nature of the NFL. Their star, their absolute only real hope at salvation, quarterback Jayden, suffered multiple injuries. The offense completely stagnated, the defense broke into a million pieces. And as we look at the landscape of 2026, the storm clouds just haven't parted. Coming off that derailed campaign, Fox Sports analyst Ralph Vacciano looked at the entire landscape of the NFL, all 32 franchises, and he ranked the supporting cast currently surrounding Jayden at an abysmal 28th. I really want you to let the gravity of that ranking sink in for a second. Out of 32 teams, the Commanders have provided their battered franchise quarterback with a bottom 5 arsenal. It creates this sense of immediate, suffocating dread. We're talking about a roster filled with practice squad elevations who are being forced to play crucial, game-deciding late-season snaps. We're talking about dropped third down conversions, blown assignments all over the field. How in the world can a team expect to contend? How can they realistically expect to protect their most valuable financial asset when the talent surrounding him is graded as some of the absolute worst in professional football? Chapter 2, The Ghost of 2023, A Sliding Doors Moment. To understand this systemic rot, we have to take a trip back to the 2023 NFL Draft. The Washington Commanders, operating under former head coach Ron Rivera at the time, are on the clock at the 16th overall pick. Now, the board had miraculously fallen perfectly for them. They desperately needed a perimeter anchor, a lockdown defender to combat the high-octane passing attacks they face 6 times a year in their division. This was a massive sliding doors moment for the franchise, but at pick 16, they gambled on the unprecedented. They selected Mississippi State's Emmanuel Forbes, a player weighing just 166 pounds. I mean, think about that. A frame that immediately raised massive, glaring red flags for the violent physical demands of the pro game. And who did they leave on the board? Who did they just let slide right past them, allowing the New England Patriots to sprint their cart up to the podium for at pick 17? Oregon's Christian Gonzalez. Let's methodically read through this terrifying reality. On one side, you have the 166-pound Forbes, a player who managed just 6 games and 1 lone start for Washington in 2024, before the entire experiment was effectively declared a total failure, eventually being dumped and resurfacing with the LA Rams. On the other side, you have the 6'2", 200-pound Christian Gonzalez, an AP All-Pro second-team selection, a bona fide Pro Bowler, the literal man who recorded the game-sealing interception in the AFC Championship to send New England to Super Bowl LX. The contrast here isn't just bad, guys. It is utterly devastating to the entire trajectory of this franchise. Chapter 3, A Secondary and Shambles, The Ripple Effect. Because you see, the real damage of passing on a generational talent like Gonzalez wasn't just a single wasted draft pick. It's never just one pick. It was the devastating ripple effect that followed. Because Washington missed their premium swing in 2023, the secondary was left bleeding out. This single, massive blunder forced general manager Adam Peters right into a corner, having inherited this gaping wound on the perimeter. So let's painstakingly walk through this frantic timeline of pure desperation. Because they completely missed on Forbes in 2023, they were forced to exhaust a highly valuable second-round pick in 2024 on Mike Sainristil. But that wasn't nearly enough to stop the bleeding. The panic fully set in. This led directly to a disastrous, panic-driven mid-season trade for Marshon Lattimore in 2024. Washington shipped away 3 2025 draft picks, a third, a fourth, and a sixth-round pick, all sent to the New Orleans Saints. They absolutely gutted the middle class of their draft capital. And what did they actually get for mortgaging their future like that? Well, Lattimore looked a step slow. He visibly regressed on tape. He played just 11 underwhelming games and then suffered a torn ACL in Week 9 of the 2025 season. He was unceremoniously released shortly after. Poof! All that draft capital gone into the wind, which forced them yet again to spend another premium second-round pick in 2025 on Trey Amos. It is this relentless, suffocating cycle of patching a self-inflicted wound that never ever truly heals. And where does that leave this franchise today? They're left relying on an aging, patchwork, free agent carousel, the ultimate stopgap Band-Aids. They brought in Amick Robertson. They added 31-year-old journeyman Ahkello Witherspoon for the 2026 campaign. They're even reportedly eyeing reclamation projects like Trayvon Diggs on the post-draft market just to field a complete defense. These are the players tasked with lining up against the absolute heavyweights of the NFC East. I mean, wrap your head around this. They are marching these temporary stopgaps out to face the sheer physical dominance of A.J. Brown. They're asking them to cover the elite surgical route running of Devonta Smith. They have to match up with the raw, game-breaking explosiveness of CeeDee Lamb. It is a mismatched nightmare waiting to happen. Every single Sunday, opposing offensive coordinators are just going to circle these matchups on the whiteboard and relentlessly, mercilessly exploit them. Chapter 4, The Jayden Daniels Dilemma, a Dangerous Reliance. But here's the thing. The crisis on defense is really only half the story. Washington is placing an immense, completely unfair burden on their dual-threat franchise quarterback. Jayden Daniels already puts his body on the line every single time he scrambles. He takes vicious, bone-rattling hits. We saw those injuries completely derail his 2025 season. Yet, the franchise is operating with this incredibly dangerous reliance on his singular magic to somehow fix structural systemic flaws across the entire roster. I want you to listen to these words from NFL analyst Ralph Facciano. There seems to be a belief in Washington that the return of a healthy Jayden Daniels will make everybody better. They better be right, though, because the Commanders didn't do a lot to improve his supporting cast in the offseason. They better be right. Can you feel the intense, looming pressure in that statement? The Commanders are essentially betting an entire multi-billion-dollar franchise's future solely on one man's physical durability. If his body breaks down under the weight of this massive carry job, the entire Washington system just collapses in on itself.
Chapter 5, The Missing Offensive Pieces, Building with Scraps.
Now, the front office actually entered the offseason flush with cap space. They had massive financial resources to surround Daniels with elite talent. But instead of providing high-end support, they've basically been building with scraps. Let's look at their weapons. Their best asset, by far, is Terry McLaurin. But let's be brutally honest here for a second. McLaurin is an aging veteran. He turns 31 in September, and he's coming off an incredibly frustrating injury-plagued season where his explosive metrics definitively dipped. And what is on the exact other side of the field to take the pressure off him? Nothing. The void. There is a terrifying absence of a true, elite, young game-changer opposite him. Imagine the sheer desperation of this scenario. If an opposing defensive coordinator simply decides to roll a safety over the top and double teams at 31-year-old McLaurin, who exactly is Jayden Daniels supposed to throw the ball to when the pocket inevitably collapses? There is absolutely no secondary option out there who strikes an ounce of fear into a defense. Let's deeply break down exactly what the front office actually did do to fix this glaring issue. Here are your 2026 offensive additions. They brought in tight end Chigoziem Okonkwo. Okay, a solid player, yes. They added veteran running backs Rashad White and Jerome Ford to pair with 2025 seventh-round surprise Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. And they drafted wide receiver Antonio Williams in the 3rd round. But let's call it exactly what it is. When you turn on the tape, these are incredibly unimpressive additions for a team that had massive salary cap space just sitting in the bank. These players fall drastically, completely short of a championship-caliber arsenal. They are at best complementary pieces. They are the plumbers and electricians of an offense, but Washington completely forgot to hire an architect. None of these players demand a double team. None of them are going to force a defense to change its pre-snap alignment to account for them. This is simply not the big game hunting this battered, bruised roster desperately demanded. And the terrifying reality gets even darker when we zoom in on the trenches. Welcome to the literal center of the crisis. In free agency, the Commanders allowed Tyler Biadasz to walk. They released him, leaving a massive, gaping hole right smack in the middle of their offensive line.
Now, the blindside left tackle gets all the massive $100 million contracts and the media glory, but the center is the cerebral anchor of the entire offensive operation. The center makes the microscopic line adjustments. The center identifies the disguise blitzes pre-snap. Right now, as we speak, Washington is relying on either unproven tackle Nick Allegretti or completely green rookie Matt Golbin to step up and run this offensive line. This is a literal ticking time bomb for Jayden Daniels. The absolute fastest way to ruin a young quarterback's confidence and career is immediate A-gap pressure right in his face. If the interior protection collapses instantly because of a missed call or a simple physical mismatch, Daniels is going to take more brutal hits, and that dark nightmare of the 2025 season is going to repeat itself right before our very eyes.
Chapter 6. A ticking clock in D.C. The ultimate consequence.
The front office still has plenty of spending power left on the ledger right now, but immense cap space means absolutely nothing. Literally nothing at all if it just sits safely in a bank account gathering interest. Having cap space doesn't block elite edge rushers on a crucial 3rd and long. Having cap space doesn't run a crisp slant route and catch touchdowns in the red zone. If they cannot land multi-year elite fixes, like maybe a Brandon Ayuk waiting for a release or orchestrating a massive veteran trade for a Stefan Diggs, before training camp opens, that cap space is just an illusion of progress. Which leaves us staring down the ultimate haunting question. Can they find their missing pieces before it's too late? Or is the ghost of that 2023 draft, combined with their complete systemic failure to protect and arm their franchise quarterback, going to violently drag this team down into another dark, lost season? The clock is deafening right now in Washington. I want to know exactly what you think about all of this. Drop your detailed theories in the comments below. Is this front office fundamentally failing Jayden Daniels? Let's talk about it. Make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus, smash that like button, and join as a member to keep this level of deep dive reporting coming directly to your feed. Until next time, keep your eyes on the tape because the tape never lies.